Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Be Free podcast. And I have the lovely Zofie with me today from Relax Me Happy. And I reached out to Zofie recently. First of all, we were laughing when we first came on because we were kind of matchy. If you're watching on YouTube, we're like color coordinated today with our pinks and reds and our hoops. We spoke about the hoops.
Yeah, so they might need sunglasses on if someone's watching this on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, bring in the vibes. It's all good. I like it. So maybe this Barbie vibes.
Oh, I'm like ready made for Barbie because I love pink.
Yeah.
So when I went to watch it with my daughter and she's like, you've got to wear a pink top, I'm like, I have many.
Yeah.
So I've been preparing for this for my whole life.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Awesome. So yeah, I reached out to Zofie recently. Zofie does loads of work in and around manifestation. And we were just chatting as well, because I'd actually connected with her and we were thinking it was probably about 5 years ago. When I don't know, I feel like Instagram was just like a newish thing, but Instagram's probably been on the go for way longer than that. But I'd followed Zofie, and both of us were at Tony Robbins at UPW, and I remember messaging her like, I'm here too. So yeah, so had connected before, but yeah, do you want to do a little intro to who you are and yeah, a little bit about you?
Sure, thanks, Susie. This is my least favorite part of any.
Yeah. It's like being in a room, isn't it? Like, yeah, made to do a presentation.
Networking. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I'm not really competent at being brief or like encapsulating what I do in sort of to a few words. But really, I think my whole vibe is all things mindset and manifestation. And I think I'm a coach. I've done a bunch of other things. I'm writing a what I call proper book, and I have a book already on Amazon called Love Notes. I have a podcast like you do, Susie, and I teach courses and master classes, but essentially I come from a therapy background. And really my thing is I heard someone say once, like, figure out what breaks your heart. But when you think about it, that breaks your heart, and go serve based on that. And for me, it's the thought of anyone kind of suffering and struggling and who's really forgotten the fact that at their core they are the divine and that anything's possible. And my kind of like the thing that lights me up maybe more than anything is being able to remind people of that, and being like a cheerleader to people who feel like the underdog, who feel left behind, who feel forgotten, and like holding their hand and reminding them like anything is possible, you can do this, and to really live out their dreams and their aspirations and the things that they hold dear in their hearts. So that's my best attempt at
Yes, I love it. I love it. I'm like, sign me up for everything you do. Exactly. And it's so, I think it is really hard to like put yourself, I don't have a elevator pitch or whatever for what I do as well, because like you, I do lots of different things in lots of different ways. And that's such a beautiful passion and purpose in the world. And you're a mum as well, because I know you've been sharing some parenting tips and tricks as well recently, supporting people with that. And
yes. Oh yeah, I ended up, not, it wasn't really by design, Susie, but working a lot with children. I don't do very much one-to-one work anymore, but I used to do a lot of it. And I just kind of fell into it. And I think, I'll be honest, partly because I'm quite immature, or very immature, and I don't know, just got on well with children. Ended up doing a lot of work along those lines, and I love working with kids. And of course I have two children. My daughter's 13, my son's 11, and for me, like, I think parenting is such a challenge because it just pushes your buttons in ways that almost nothing else does, if not nothing else does. And I think it's a very frightening thing to do, to have a human or humans in this world that you've birth, or that you're father, or whatever it might be, and you're so invested in this person, but you're not here to control them. And for me, that actually, like, I'm a big believer in unconditional, I thought I was going to say it the wrong way around then, but unconditional love. Like, for me, that speaks to the nature and the essence of the divine is that we are loved, each one of us, no matter what we do. And to show up and truly love another in that way, which for me is what parenting is all about, is so not easy. Because a big part of me, like I'm sure all or most of us parents, just wants to stick my kids in a room and say, just sit there, don't move, don't do anything remotely dangerous, so I can just breathe. And my son is a manifestor in human design, which is kind of like the worst kind of baby you can have, because they crave autonomy, and as a mum you want like almost like the opposite of that. But I know that my job isn't to keep his wings clipped, and I can feel the fear in myself. I'm very observant of it and aware of it, so I have the utmost respect to humans full stop, but particularly to parents, because I really do think it just brings up so much fear, and unless we know what to do with that, we end up just wanting to control and give rules and so on and so forth. Anyway, I've gone way off piece there talking about
I like it's so great. And as I said before we started recording, I can guarantee we'll be chatting and drifting and all of that is good. My daughter is 13 as well, and I totally hear you. She wanted to go into town with friends yesterday, and it was like later on at night, and I was like, oh, we stay in the countryside, and I'm like, oh, my heart says I really don't want you to do that, but equally, and she's like, it's okay, Mom, I love you, I'm gonna be safe. And I'm like,
oh, it's scary, isn't it? It brings up so much fear. I think maybe more than anything. And the one thing that I would say that helps me so much maintain some semblance of sanity anyway is to remember that, like, my take is that we all are specks of the divine in a human body, and we're all tethered to the divine. And of course, that's true whether you're 0 or 1 or 5 or 13 or 55. And so they have their inner guidance. And remembering that, and it can be hard if you see a tiny little human person to think that of the fact that they're divinity in this little body, but they have that guidance that's with them 24/7, and we don't need to be that for them. Like, we can teach them certain things as they teach us, but they also are tethered to that just helps me like be able to breathe.
No, that's a really, really good thought process. And yeah, you mentioned human design there. I don't actually know Lily's human design, so I'm going to go and check that out after.
As a parent, check it out, Susie. Oh my God, so helpful. Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Okay, so let's dive into manifestation now, because I know it's such a hot topic, and it's something that I'm hugely passionate about as well, and working with the law of attraction and all these things. But for somebody that's kind of maybe new to this whole manifestation thing, what would you say manifestation is?
Yeah, okay, so here we go again, me trying to be brief.
No, you don't have to be brief, just it's all good.
There are different ways, I guess, of looking at this. And if we're talking about someone who's maybe, like you said, more of a beginner, for me, the kind of simple way of thinking about it is that everything external is a reflection of the internal. And of course, we live in this world where we can see stuff like our bright pink tops, and we can touch things like, the chair I'm sitting on, and I assume you're not levitating, but you might be, you're sitting on, and we have these senses, and we're very aware that we live in this physical reality, this physical world, but everything physical is preceded by non-physical, by energy. And so in its simplest form, it's understanding that this physical comes from non-physical. The outer is a reflection of the inner. And I wrote down a quote, which I was trying to remember and I forgot. So good job I've written it down. But it's from Buddha, the Buddha. I don't know if it's Buddha or the Buddha. Anyway, Buddha. And you've probably heard it. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. And for me, this kind of encapsulates manifestation, is that we create our reality. Sometimes people say to me, how do I start manifesting? I'm like, you don't start manifesting.
You already are.
Yeah, gravity works all the time, all day, every day, and so does manifestation. It's just that, like, I would say to someone, I'm about teaching you how to manifest on purpose, how to manifest consciously, but it's really starting to work with that. Like, I heard someone say once that, like, fish in water, because they're surrounded by water, don't realize and recognize that they're surrounded by water. And I think of the universe in the same way, that we're surrounded by this kind of malleable energy that we can hone and form. I was talking to my boyfriend the other day. I was sort of saying to him, I've done this for so long, I've become so intuitive and aware. I was like, that just doesn't feel good, but this feels flowy, and I can kind of feel the energy, which I know is really weird. But it's starting to see that everything is energy, and really that it's only ever us that's in our own way, which is annoying, but ultimately really freeing, and that we can create whatever we want out of our world. Is just getting over the mindset stuff that is the challenge. And so for me, that the key is that what's going on in your world is a reflection of what's happening inside. Like, you know how you're late and then you get stuck behind a really slow grandma, and there's traffic and roadworks, and it always happens when you're late. It's like, well, why is that? Einstein said coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. In other words, these aren't coincidences. Life is responding to you. Life is for you and responding to you. And I think when you wake up to this fact, it's the most awesome thing, because you realize it's not like random stuff is just occurring. Like, we have control over it when we understand what's going on. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I don't want people to just feel like, oh God, you know, at the moment, I don't use the word expensive, because it's not helpful. And I hear it all the time, oh, I want that, but it's so expensive, or the cost of things has gone up, and so on and so forth. And people are just programming themselves, and they feel like they're beholden to, you know, whoever comes into power. Like, who would have thought that Donald Trump, for example, would be president of the United States, apart from obviously The Simpsons called it. But you know, all we feel like we're at the mercy of all these different things. And if you're in the UK, obviously, like we are, it's the weather. But when you realize, no, you are a speck of the divine in a human body. You have the same power at your fingertips as created this entire universe. And it's not just randomly happening to you. Then, of course, everything shifts. And that for me is just so exciting, to be able to remind people of that, because we all know it deep down, and help them to start to put that to use in their own lives.
I love that. I love that. So powerful, and powerful and empowering to recognize, and as you say, it's like kind of like a responsibility as well, isn't it, when you suddenly realize, oh, I'm responsible for this. But also empowering that I can do something about this, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I think people sometimes feel bad then. They're like, well, why did I do this? It's like, well, you're not at fault, you're not culpable, you're not to blame. And I had this a lot when I work with parents, when they recognize that our kids are mirroring us, then they go, oh my God, I've really messed them up. And then that's just more negativity, which obviously is not the vibe, it's not helpful. So it's taking this ownership and viewing it in a positive way. And I'm really big on self-compassion, kindness to self, being, you know, giving yourself grace, and also taking responsibility, because no one can help anyone at any point unless and until that person is ready and willing to help themselves, and that's always on us, isn't it? But yeah, it can feel like a weight, but ultimately it's freeing.
Definitely, for sure. And how did you come into this path of kind of specializing in this kind of mindset, manifestation? What drew you? You mentioned did you say you had a therapy background, or? Yeah,
I first trained as a solution-focused clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist probably about 20 years ago. But I think, like, way back when, my childhood, without going into all the gory details, was very, very painful and uncomfortable, and that went on rather for a really prolonged period of time. And I think I was just born with this really powerful, unshakable, innate knowing of what's loving and what's not. And you just couldn't kind of beat that out of me. And life did try to do that. And this really strong inner compass for, no, that just doesn't feel like, you know, I would call it God, whatever, the divine, just doesn't feel like that to me. And that, like, light inside of me got me through those really, really agonizing formative years, frankly. And I think because of that, I have this deep passion to not leave anyone behind. You know, I have this kind of bit of me that's bold and brave, and you know, doesn't want to leave anyone suffering if I can help it. Like, I also know that some people aren't ready for what I've got to say, or what, you know, someone like you or I have to say, and that's fine. But if someone wants my assistance and I can help them, I'm not going to leave them there metaphorically bleeding on the side of the road. Because I've felt that pain, and I have so much love in my heart for my fellow brothers and sisters, and I know that we're all one, we're all connected, and I don't want to treat, like, I made a program recently, and I just kept saying what I'm sharing here is nothing less than I would share with my own babies, who I love more than anything, because to me there isn't that much difference between my babies and someone else's baby, you know. And I just have that so firmly in my heart, just this desire to be a source of like joy and love and light and remembering, and like, come on guys.
Yes, you are. I just, it's funny, because when you were speaking, I remember like years ago, maybe you still do this, I haven't noticed though, remember you used to do all your kitchen dancing?
Yes, I was thinking about that earlier actually. Yeah.
I remember that. I used to watch you having a little boogie in your kitchen.
Yeah, and someone said to me once, my God, you're mental. I was like, oh, I didn't really think anything of it, to be honest. Like,
just having fun, living my life.
But I also reckon that in former lives, I think I must have been like a jester, you know, how they brought that fool out. I think that's just part of who I am. If I can uplift someone, either just by being stupid, telling a joke, or imparting hopefully some kind of wisdom, that I think when you've been through deep pain, it's either gonna, you know, you're gonna go one or two paths essentially, aren't you? Either you want to inflict more of that on other people to kind of get it off you and project it out, or you're like, no, I want to put this to good use, and I don't want anyone else to be suffering. Like, that just gets to me, the thought of someone feeling alone and feeling like they're forgotten about, because I felt that for so long. I just, as much as I can do about that, that's what I'm here for.
Amazing. And I know that will speak to you and kind of inspire and empower so many people. And I have some people in my mind I'm going to forward this podcast to after it's out there, edited, recorded. So with regards to manifestation, like, obviously you spend a lot of time working in this area. What would you say is kind of the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to manifestation? And I know you've got a workshop coming up that we can share at the end, but yeah, what's the biggest mistake you would say?
I think there are loads of things, frankly, that I've seen trip people up. And I say this a lot. Most of the time I am one of those people. Like, human design, I have a 3 in my chart, and anyone who knows anything about human design, a 3 is designed to learn by trial and error and then teach others. And that's totally been my life. Like, I'll mess it up and I'll be like, guys, don't do that, that's really crap, do this instead. And so the stuff I teach, it's like invariably I've messed up. Like, I've been through the trial and the error, and there are lots of things, but I think one of the things that I'm really, really so passionate about helping people with, because I have seen this block so many people, is that, so one of the things I love to say is fear speaks loudest when you're on the precipice of great change. So for me, I have the kind of metaphor in my mind of you're stepping towards the edge of this cliff, and your soul, your higher self, knows that you have these divine wings, and so you have the capacity to fly, to soar, to up level. But the mind just thinks you're going to step off a cliff, and so it's going to come at you with everything it's got to basically try and stop you from stepping off the cliff. And so anytime we're about to what we would call up level, or words to that effect, the mind kicks in and goes da 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 da, and gives all these limiting beliefs. And Alison Armstrong said this recently, which I loved, which is limiting beliefs advertise themselves as truth. And unless and until we observe and we work through our limiting beliefs, we do think that they're reality. They feel really scary. And like, if you're not tethered to your higher self, and you're on the edge of the cliff, and your mind's going, it's 2,000 feet down, you're going to break all your bones and die, like that feels like, you're like, yeah, I think I am, because I can see. what people do is they go, okay, I want to leave this toxic relationship, or I want to get healthy, or I want to get a new job, or I want to become more abundant, whatever it is. And then the mind thinks, you're about to walk off the cliff. Let's give you all the reasons why you shouldn't do this. So there was someone I worked with once, and she wanted to leave her job. Her job was not good for her. She wanted to go and do Reiki stuff. And as she prepared to, all this deluge of limiting beliefs came up, and she just stepped back and went back to the uncomfortable, the comfort of the discomfort of the job that wasn't right. And I'm like, no. And for me, that's why coaching is so helpful, because someone like me could come along and go, right, let's work through these limiting beliefs now. And let's come up with some new affirmations that tap you into your higher self, and then off you go and you fly. And there's a vast difference, obviously, between continuing and metaphorically flying and just regressing back and staying the same. And I say this a lot to people. It's like, the longer you're alive, I believe, the more that you've been asking for, and the more that you don't go with that, the worse you feel. And so you're gonna need to spend more. You're gonna need to Netflix it up more. You're gonna need to drink more. You're gonna need to summit, whatever it is, to try and fill that void that you're creating, because you're not going where your heart is calling you to go. And I'm so passionate about this. You can probably tell, because it's like, no, you're nearly there. Like, keep going. It's just the mind trying to keep you safe ultimately. So that for me is a biggie that needn't be there. And if people just understand how to journal out all their beliefs and talk themselves round, then they can avoid all of that crazy, just not following their dreams.
Amazing. Oh, so helpful. And yeah, I think that is, I made a desire, not last year, the year before, that was going to be the healthiest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And the universe went, no, and gave me everything, like, all different kinds of illness and stuff. And I'm like, this is really interesting working through this. But that being said, I have up-leveled my health in some respects. It's not quite back to where it was before, but it's different. And different learnings. And yeah, I think the universe does sometimes throw us these little curveballs, just little tests along the way, that you need to
give you a thought on that. So actually I think it was someone that was interviewing me on a podcast a while back. What she said was, when you ask for something, it's like you send up this rocket into the ethers of your desire, and then what tumbles down is all the things that you need to work through to be able to achieve that. So say and I again have seen this hurt so many people unnecessarily. Say someone says, I want to be more abundant, and then all of a sudden they get all these freaking bills, they lose money, I don't know, they get a pay cut, and they're like, why is this? And of course they can feel really dejected, but actually what the universe is lovingly and creatively doing with them is showing them, okay, well, you worry about money, not you, but Susie, let's say it's you, Susie, you worry about money. Worrying about money is not conducive to being wealthy. And so we're going to bring this up so that we can work through it. And I don't use the word test, because people use it left, right, and center, and it's not bad or wrong. I just think that it implies that the universe is like, I don't know, trying to teach us something. And it's maybe a bit strict or mean. And I think that it's not like that. And I don't say lessons, and I don't say tests. I think it's sometimes I sometimes use the word like lesson, like it's a blessing and a lesson. It's that, because from my perspective, the universe is like this loving, deeply loving parent that we're working with. It's not like they're higher, we're lower, or anything like that. And it's just like you say, I want to be healthy, and it's like, okay, Susie, brilliant, we're on this. And it's just ever so lovingly, like I just imagine this little puppy dog in my head, like coming along, hey, no, you've got an iron deficiency, like to help you. And again, it can feel really mean, can't it? Where and I felt that so many times in my life, but that's just not the nature of the divine from my perspective. It's not trying to get you. It's not trying to teach you. It's for you. And they're coming up so you can work through them and drop them.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, one of my teachers, like spiritual teachers, she'd mentioned something similar. And yeah, just along the lines of just like breaking down the old foundations before you build the new house, you know, so you've got this stronger base to kind of work with. You wouldn't kind of put a new house on an old foundations kind of thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
too. So,
Yeah. For me, it's just that the divine is loving. It's
mm-hmm.
co-creating with you. It's loving. It's got your back. It wants for you what you want for you. You say I want this, and it's not judging. It's not like, you know, parents often are, well, you sure you don't really want this? It's like, no, okay, you say you want that, Susie, we've got your back.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Cool. Ace. Love it. And do you have any kind of like tips or techniques or anything that you could share with our listeners or those that are watching, just to kind of kick off their little manifestation journey or amplify it?
Yeah. So I'm actually, what did I call it? I can't remember now. From today, I think I'm gonna sell a bundle on via my Instagram of 3 meditations. I know this is up your street, Susie, but that meditating is something that I do pretty much every single day.
Yeah.
The meditations that I make, I would still make them even if no one listened to them. So that if anyone actually, if anyone's, because I'm going to sell it this weekend. But if someone catches this after the fact and they're like, I want that bundle, they can message me. But meditation is something for me is key, because for lots of reasons, but one of the main reasons perhaps is that it can get you to feel the feels of already having what you want, because our subconscious and the universe can't tell the difference between us imagining it and it already being here. And so it's a really potent, powerful tool. So definitely meditation. The other thing that I've kind of touched upon is working through our limiting beliefs. So let's use you as an example. You said you wanted the best health of your life, or words to that effect.
Yeah.
So if I was wanting to manifest that, if I was coaching you, I'd say, okay, Susie, let's sit down, and now we're going to write down all the crappy stuff that comes up when you think that. So it might be like, but I'm too busy, I haven't done it before, how am I going to do it now, I'm a mum, I don't know, my husband's a bad influence. Whatever, you just write it all down, like you get it all out in the open. And even just doing that is so helpful, because instead of it just being stuck in your head and scary, you write it down. And then what you do is you talk yourself around from every single one. You disprove them. So say the belief is, I don't know, can you think of one that you had?
Yeah, like, well, maybe, yeah, like the whole kind of time element thing, or like I already thought it was quite healthy, so I guess like how could I, like, yeah, improve it more? But yeah,
I'm already doing enough, or I don't have time. Yeah, okay, well, so let's, for argument's sake, say one of your beliefs was, I don't have time to do this. Then you'd work through to disprove it, and you'd say, actually, I have time to do whatever I want ultimately. And you might remember at Tony Robbins, I remember him saying, someone stood up who was a mum, and I can't remember the ins and outs, but she was basically saying she didn't have enough time to do X, and he just said, you're lying. And I was like, oh. It was really blunt and harsh, and he said it in a way that I wouldn't have said it, but it's ultimately we do tell ourselves these lies, and it wasn't helpful. So you just write down, if I prioritized it, I could make more time for this. I'm going to make time for this. Actually, I have time to prioritize my health. And you'd get to a place where you'd affirm something that you could get on board with.
Yeah.
And I'd go through everything, and I'd create these new affirmations that feel good, and I'd repeat them until they became my beliefs. And then along with that, I would write out, okay, I'm Susie and I'm in the best health of my life. How does this Susie feel on the regular? How does she deal with challenges? What does she eat? What does she what exercise does she do? What's her experience of life, and so on and so forth. And I'd really build out this version of this healthy Susie, and I would start to live my life as she would approach it. It doesn't mean you do all the exact same things, but you bring her persona into the now, and feel the feels of that regularly. Like for me, manifesting wealth, it's like, what does it feel like? It just feels, the main thing that comes up for me is it feels relaxing. It feels relaxing. And if health felt to you, for example, like freedom, and you consistently felt the feeling of freedom, you'd be tapping into that. You'd have ideas and insights come to you for what, who knows what it would be, to then create your reality that would match up with that. It's law, it has to happen. So
Yeah.
that for me, when you're manifesting, is it's just the process, it's the way that it goes. It's like, work out what's in the way, feel the feels of it consistently, keep the faith, keep going, and in time you have to manifest what you're a match for. It's just the way that it goes.
Yes. Woo! Yeah, I can see so many people now will probably be like grabbing pens and paper and like, okay, what is that I want to manifest? Yeah, that's something that I like to support clients with as well, with that cool kind of stepping into that new persona and what's that going to feel like and what would she be doing, and yeah, kind of future stepping into that future self now, I guess.
Yes.
Amazing. And then from a personal point of view, like what kind of things do you, obviously you've got all these incredible tools, but what do you love to kind of support your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual?
I think one of the things that personally for me is key is space. I've mentioned human design a few times. I'm pretty passionate about it, and I've got a book that goes into detail, and it said my particular personality needs so much space. And it is true. And so that's when I am really more able to connect with and to tune into the divine, is when there isn't any noise, there's no one that needs me, I can just be myself on my own terms. So allowing that space, like so many people nowadays, of course, are incredibly busy, their diaries are just crammed full of stuff, and I look at like a lot of friends of mine, and I think, if my diary was your diary, I would be having panic attacks. If my diary was your diary, I would be drinking too much, or that wouldn't be a good look, but anyway, I would be depressed. So white space, downtime, is key medicine for me, and I can feel when I'm back in like what I think of as my own energy, I just feel this softness and this connection, and space allows me to do that.
Amazing. I'm just muting myself there because my dog's just decided to start barking.
Oh, I can't hear anything.
Okay, hopefully nobody else can hear anything. Cool. Thank you so much. And yeah, I agree with that as well. Having the space and the freedom, and yeah, it's super, super, super powerful. And yeah, so you obviously, that kind of touches on the question I tend to ask everybody on the podcast, is about being free and that sense of freedom. So for you, is that just having space by yourself, or is there something else that you like to do that gives you that sensation of freedom?
Actually, as you're asking me that, I'm just thinking, I one of my forms of therapy is just driving with the music on. I've got a convertible. I've loved, convertible cars since way back when, particularly with the roof down. That gives me a free feeling, and also running often, just something that's quite simple, where you're going into that trance. You're not having to think too much about what you're doing. Good music on that's kind of filling my head. That probably is. Those are some of the things that give me a sense of freedom. What about you, Susie? What is it for you?
Oh, nature. Yeah, being outside with nature, being by the ocean.
Oh, I love the ocean.
Forest, on my horse, just nature.
You got your own horse?
Yeah, I've got my own horse, and then I've got a friend's horse that I ride as well. So
that's gorgeous. That's something I'd love to do at some point in my life. I've done a little bit, but love to do more of. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that space for yourself as well. Oh, thank you so much for today. I really, really appreciate all your insight, all your wisdom. I mentioned briefly you have a masterclass coming up. Do you want to share a little bit about that, or how people can connect with you?
Yeah, I would love to share. I'm trying to think what I know about it. Basically, speaking about the ocean, Susie, my dream is to write and to live in Malibu by the ocean. And I had the inspired idea a week or two ago, when my kids were away with their dad, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. So, and then I was like, that's me beginning to step into my dream, right? So I thought, why don't I do a masterclass when I'm there? Because I'm going by myself. And so I'm going to hold a masterclass. I can't remember the date. I think it's Tuesday the 15th of August at 8 p.m. It's called Manifesting 101. And if someone is brand new to this, it's going to give them an intro, a bit like the stuff I was saying earlier. If someone's been at it a while, so to speak, it's going to remind them of the basics. And I don't know all the ins and outs yet because I haven't planned it, but the thing that I know is that my energy is going to be in a particularly potent place, because I'm going to be stepping into my dreams, and I just think that's really powerful and cool. So it's probably going to be about an hour. It's free. People can either sign up for my email list, or obviously follow me on Instagram, but I'll be sending out the details to my list. That's probably one of the easiest ways, or just DM me on Instagram. But really, the more the merrier for that masterclass. I'm just excited to be kind of lit up and in that place. Like I feel like I was born in the wrong country. You know how people are born in the wrong bodies? I feel like I was born in the wrong country and I'm supposed to be American. So I feel like I'm going to be home.
I can't wait for you to have this experience and see how it goes. And
so I would love anyone who's at all interested, please come. Like I say, it's completely free. I'll answer questions if anyone's got questions, and it's just really designed to obviously impart information, but more energetically get something across to people and remind them that, look, anything's possible, not just for me or you, but for any of us. So yeah, if anyone wants to come along to that, I would love to have them.
I just keep thinking like Malibu Barbie now. You like Malibu Barbie in your convertible with the roof down.
I won't be driving this time. I'll be Ubering, because I think the image of that's great, but the reality of like probably 6 lanes of traffic and me like Mrs. Bean.
Brilliant.
Mrs. Bean, it'll be Malibu Mrs. Bean, not Malibu Barbie. Anyway.
Love it. Great. Well, I will share all your links so that everybody can connect with you. Go give Zofie a follow. And yeah, you can grab all her beautiful energy and wisdom via Instagram and sign up to her mailing list as well and get all the details. But thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. And I will look forward to catching up with you real soon.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I've loved it.
See ya. Bye.